season and owning the best record in the NFL still is not a convincing enough argument for Aaron Rodgers to commit to staying in Green Bay. But he was willing to promise one thing yesterday. He won't take too long after the season to make a firm decision about his future, but he's leaving all possibilities, including retirement, on the table.
I wouldn't rule that out. I think that I'm just enjoying this season for this season. And I think there's playing next year will definitely be in the thought process. If this year has taught me anything, it's that, I still can play. I still have a love for the game. I'm still super competitive and still enjoy the process of the week. I miss practice, and it's tough to not be out there. There'll be a lot of things that'll weigh in the off season. Saying that doesn't mean, or any of the comments I've made doesn't mean I'm thinking about elsewhere. I do want to clarify that. I'm just savoring this year, I think, as much as anything. And I don't want to, it won't be something where I'll drag it out for months and months.
Ooh, Aaron Rodgers, he loves to stir it up. We know that much about him this season. Okay, Sam Macho, Damian Woody joining us now. Sam, is Rodgers, by making these comments, is he creating some unnecessary drama?
Absolutely not. I think, if anything, he's clearing things up. He's letting people know exactly where he stands. And that's who Aaron Rodgers has been his entire career. He's not afraid of the media. He's not afraid of anybody else. He's going to say what he believes, and you take it, you can leave it. The thing I love about what Aaron Rodgers said, twofold. Number one, he made it very clear. I'm not saying I'm going to leave. I'm not saying I'm going to stay. I'm saying I'm going to enjoy this moment. That's number one. So he made that abundantly clear. And then secondly, he also said, I'm not going to drag this thing out. I know we think it's going to be a long process. He said, as soon as the season ends, I will make a decision. I will have a decision, whether it's here or somewhere else. And so if anything, Aaron Rodgers isn't creating unnecessary drama. He's adding more clarity to what he's going to do in the future, but more importantly, what he's doing right now.
Clarity. Like, Sam, listen, first of all, Aaron Rodgers like Aaron Rodgers talk. That's what I took out of that whole thing right there. Why are we even talking about, potential retirement and all that type of stuff? Like, as a player, and Sam, you know this as well as I do, we try to keep the main thing the main thing. Right now, the main thing is what? The next game, and trying to win the number one seed and hopefully, gain that home field advantage and advance to the Super Bowl, something that you haven't done in over a decade. So for me, listen, I get it. I understand it. You're on with your friend Pat McAfee, and you guys are kicking back and you're kind of spilling your guts and all that type of stuff. But as a guy in the locker room, man, like I want all my dogs focused on what's really important. Okay, what's really important for the Green Bay Packers right now is trying to gain home field advantage and trying to win a Super Bowl. Talk of this might be my last, I might retire and all that type of stuff. As a teammate, why? Why are we even talking about that? It makes absolutely no sense. Let's focus on the job at hand, which is winning the Super Bowl. Like, to me, that makes no sense at all.
But there's a piece, it's twofold, D-Wood. Like, one piece of it is, okay, yes, we're focusing on the now. And right now, as we all know, the Packers are 12-3. They have the number one seed. They could win it and get the number one seed, have a first-round bye. So he's already focused on the now. Aaron Rodgers has that covered, signed, sealed, delivered right now. But the other question is, people think about the future as well. Hey, right now we're all set. But also, you're going to ask me about my future. I will answer the question. I'm not shy or afraid or intimidated to answer the question about my future. What he said is, right now, he had not to say anything about right now. He's taking care of right now, 12-3. But he talked about his future. He said, hey, I'm not saying I'm leaving. I'm not saying I'm going. I'm saying I'm going to enjoy the moment. Remember the beginning of the season, Aaron Rodgers talked about the last dance. Remember he talked about it's going to be his last hurrah, right? If anything, that may have been a distraction. The season hadn't even started. Talking about the last dance, is he going to come back? Is he not? But as soon as he came back on that football field, this dude has been dominant. 33 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's thrown for 3,700 yards. He's in the MVP conversation. And so we cannot discredit him talking about the future and saying that's affecting his now. His now is fine, but he's also addressing what fans care about, what probably GMs care about, what Devontae Adams cares about. He said this matters to him too.
Well, listen, clearly what he's saying is not affecting his play. I'm not even talking about Aaron Rodgers per se. I'm just talking about the other guys in the locker room. You really think the other guys in the locker room want to hear about Aaron Rodgers talking about I might retire, all these different scenarios and talking about, COVID and all that. Like guys don't want to talk. Hey, Sam, you know the deal. Guys want to focus on what? What do guys want to focus on? When it's time to play football, it's time to play football. Guys want to focus on what's important. And what's important right now is the next opponent, get preparing for the postseason. They're not trying to hear about Aaron Rodgers and whether he's going to retire or not. Especially after last year getting bounced in the NFC Championship game by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You would think that guys are like, man, listen, if there's one time where we want to be locked in, zeroed in on what's really important for everyone in this locker room, let's focus on let's just focus on football. We'll deal with the other stuff at a later date.
But D Wood, you know just as good as anybody that no matter what, if you're winning, everything else can go to the side, right? You can talk all you want. You can go out, do your thing, have fun, go to the club. You can go and do interviews, get on the Pat McAfee show. If you win, everything else is cast away. And what's happening right now is that Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are winning. They're winning. And so if I'm in that locker room, I might be like, man, I don't want to hear this guy talk about his future and next year and free agency and his relationship with the GM. But also I'm like, man, we're winning. Man, those checks are going to cash. Man, we get that first round bye. We're going to get these extra playoff checks. We're going to get a chance to go and win a Super Bowl. We got the MVP of last year, 3-time MVP, a guy who was in the conversation this year. And so sometimes I think, excuse me, we have to learn to take the good with the bad. We have to learn how to take the good with the bad. A lot of us want the good of Aaron Rodgers, the touchdowns, the lack of interceptions. The NFC, he was a player of the month in December, 3-0 in his time in December, 800 yards, 10 touchdowns, no picks. But there's another side that we have to be willing to accept. And right now, for whatever reason, it's this side of the interviews and the future and bringing in his own guys. The drama. But if I'm a Green Bay Packer, if I'm on his team, if I'm in his huddle, I will take the drama if I'm also getting the dubs. Right now, I am getting the dubs and I'm also getting the drama. And so, no, it's not a distraction, nor has it been. Aaron Rodgers, talk your talk, do your thing. I can't control you. That's who you are. In all reality, that might be part of what makes you great. Remember Michael Jordan, right? He talked about, man, I took that personal, right? That might be what makes him great. I'm going to say what I want to say, do what I want to do, go where I want to go, because that's who I am, and people are going to have to accept it.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, he is on the verge right now of having back-to-back MVP seasons. So only 5 instances in the past of that actually happening. But let's look at the entire NFC picture. Aaron Rodgers, he can rest a little easy for right now because when you look at how things are shaking out in that conference, Rodgers has the Packers at the top, 1 game ahead of the Cowboys, Bucks, and Rams. The Cardinals locked into at least a wild card spot. Though the West is still up for grabs, the 49ers have a 77% chance to qualify for postseason play, while the Eagles currently sitting at 65%, that according to ESPN's FPI. So, Damian, Packers on top. So who should they fear the most in the NFC?
Ooh. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh.
I think the Dallas Cowboys are the team that the Green Bay Packers should fear the most. And when you watch the Dallas Cowboys, there's a couple things that really carry over into the postseason. Playing in the trenches, good defense, and quarterback play. And when you watch the Dallas Cowboys play, particularly on the defensive side of the football, they have guys that they play well on all 3 levels on the defense. And they got 3 guys in Michael Parsons, Randy Gregory, and DeMarcus Lawrence, who can absolutely get after the quarterback. It's pick your poison. Who do you want to double? Who you want to focus on? Those guys are game breakers. Those guys create turnovers. Dak Prescott and company, what we saw from them in the Washington football team, and I know the Washington football team was a little depleted, but I think sometimes what happens is you get a spark, you get momentum going your way when you have a game like that. And what we saw last week against the Washington football team, we saw Zeke Elliott look probably better than we've seen him look in quite some time. They're going to get Tyron Smith back up front, which is only going to fortify their offensive line. So when you combine all of those aspects, the weapons that they have on offense on the perimeter, when you combine all of those aspects, that's a real challenge for any team that's going to have to face the Dallas Cowboys.
D-Wood, that sounds good, and you make some solid points. But let me counter your points with another team that I think is probably even more potent, more of a threat, more able to beat Green Bay. And I think that's a team that did it last year in the NFC Championship game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You talked about things that carry into the playoffs, things that travel. You talked about playing in the trenches, right? I think that Tampa Bay can do that. You got guys like Vita Vea, guys like JPP, guys like Adama Suh, guys like Shaq Barrett. I think that travels, right? You talked about good run defense. Todd Bowles, we all know what the Tampa Bay defense is. I think that travels as well. And then also you talked about quarterback play. And if anybody knows how to play the position of quarterback, it's Tom Brady. And so my team has got to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I think the reasons are very clear. Now, obviously, there are some injuries. We get it. Chris Godwin is out for the season. We understand that. Leonard Fournette is going to come back. All that is good and dandy. My issue with your point on the Cowboys is that the Cowboys have been inconsistent all season long. They've been up and they've been down. The early part of the season, we saw them dominating, running the ball. Sudden they come back and get a big win last week. We think they're all back and all healthy. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott have both been injured at times, and they did look great in the last week's game. But the 3 weeks before that, you saw Zeke limping. I know you got eyes too. We saw Dak not moving the way he used to move since the calf injury. I know you have eyes too. And so for you to say that the Dallas Cowboys are the biggest threat, I think it's incorrect because you're saying it based off of potential and not based off of reality. Potential says, man, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Amari Cooper, you're getting him the ball. Your potential says you have Ezekiel Elliott, you have a great offensive line, you got Micah Parsons. All that is great, and I agree with that, but it's also potential. Reality says we have a 7-time Super Bowl champion in Tom Brady who has done this before. He's been there, he's done that, right? He got the T-shirt. That's what Tom Brady has done. And so for you to overlook Tampa Bay, for me, it doesn't make any sense, unless you're saying it's because of some of the injuries to Godwin and but even then, you still got Antonio Brown back. You still got Leonard Fournette's going to come back. Levante David is injured, is going to come back. And so I don't see it. I don't see it, D-Wood.
And Damien's face says he's not convinced.
Convince me. Then convince me, D-Wood. Convince me what makes you believe that the Cowboys are the biggest threat to the Green Bay Packers. Convince me what makes you believe that the Cowboys are going to go to the playoffs and win games in the playoffs and not lose in the first round or second round. Convince me what you see that makes you so confident, right? I see the potential. I see the ups, but I also see the downs. Make it make sense, D-Wood.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll make it make sense to you. You ready? Okay, number one, you talk about Shaq Barrett. You know Shaq Barrett is injured, right?
Yes,
like
I do.
He's out for the rest of the regular season. They hope to get him back. No guarantee that he's going to come back. That's a premier pass rusher that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won't have at their disposal. Okay, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is a premier player for that Tampa Bay offense. A guy not only that works the middle of the field, a guy that's also a big part of that running game. The physicality that he brings, to that offense from the wide receiver position cannot be overstated. Okay, and so you talk about inconsistency and all those type of things. Didn't Tampa get skunked? Get skunked by the New Orleans Saints? Okay.
Yeah. Yes,
Didn't they get skunked by the New Orleans Saints?
Green Bay did too.
Yeah.
Green Bay did too. Green Bay, the same Green Bay team that you're so confident.
Have we? Wait a minute. Hold on. You had your chance to speak. Let me go ahead and speak my truth right now. Okay, you talk about inconsistency. Listen, I love Tom Brady more than more than just as much as anybody else out there. But I mean, to get skunked by the New Orleans Saints, that's not consistency right there. And so for me,
that's the fact.
when I talk about the Dallas Cowboys, yes, have they had some inconsistencies on offense? Yes, they have. A lot of that had to do with injuries, particularly up front along the offensive line, because we know a big part of their identity is their rushing attack. That's what had them at that 6-game winning streak at the beginning of the season. Those guys are getting back healthy. Zeke looked healthier last week against the Washington football team than probably at any point in the season. Okay, Dak Prescott looked comfortable. Guy looking probably look a lot healthier, rolling out, making plays outside the pocket. And then I go back to this. The Dallas Cowboys defense is for real. When you have 3 premier rushers that can get after the opposing quarterback, how many teams have that many pass rushers that can get after teams? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't have that. They don't have those 3 guys that can get after people. And when come to postseason, when you're playing against the, Matt Stafford or the Aaron Rodgers or whoever the quarterback is, when you got horses, and I'm going to quote Michael Parsons here, when you have lions and lioness that can go out there and go hunting, that is a tremendous asset for any team to have. And that's why I said the Dallas Cowboys to me is the biggest threat because they got pass rushers galore that can get after you, and they got guys on the offensive side that can match up with any offense in the National Football League.
You remember that? I think it was a commercial when I was a kid. It was that anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better. You remember that? Anything you can do, I can do better? Like Tampa Bay's saying that right now to every single one of your points.
Yeah.
Anything you can do, I can do better. Do we have some dogs? Yes, we have dogs. Are they healthy now? No. Will they be healthy in the postseason? Absolutely. Is Shaq a dog? Did he lead the league in sacks last year? Yes. Is Jason Pierre-Paul, though he's dealing with some injuries, is he a monster, a beast, a freak, Super Bowl champion? Yes. Not to mention Ndamukong Suh, not to mention Vita Vea on the inside. Yes, those are some dogs, some lions, tigers, bears. Oh my, it's all of that.
My goodness.
Number one. Number two, real quick, because D. Wood, you said something. Number two, the point that you made about like just that dog mentality, right? And the dogs you have on the offensive side of the ball, the receivers who can match up with anybody. We haven't even mentioned Gronkowski. We haven't even mentioned Cameron Brate, who's playing at a high level. We haven't mentioned that Antonio Brown, as you mentioned, is going to come back. We haven't mentioned all the dogs that are going to come on Tampa Bay's side of the ball. Mike Evans is going to be healthy as well, week to week. And so all of what you said, it sounds good, but I want to see it, right? I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it. Not the ups and the downs. I want to see it consistently.
Okay, listen, there are definitely some differing opinions.
I want to see it too. You
Go ahead. Finish real quick.
No, I want to see it too. You can't. That's a lot of guys that's in the ice tub that you counting on right now. I got to see it out there.
Okay, differing opinions as far as who the biggest threat is, but the fact remains Packers on top of the conference right now. If they win this weekend, they will clinch the NFC. If the Cowboys also get a loss, Stephen A is smiling after hearing that stat. Okay, guys, let's keep it moving. You two going to take a quick break because we get back to the NBA after the break. Kyrie Irving, he is back at practice and speaking to the media for the first time since the preseason. Perk and Monica back to tell us if his return is a bad look for the Nets. Plus, whether Carson Wentz plays this week is still up in the air, but do the guys think the Colts need Wentz to make the playoffs? We've got more First Take. Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger saying today, really just moments ago while speaking to the media, that, quote, all signs point to Monday night's matchup against the Browns possibly being his final regular season game at Heinz Field. Big Ben currently wrapping up his 18th season, so here is Big Ben speaking just minutes ago.
Looking at this or embracing this as maybe your last game in Heinz Field?
Right out the gate. You know what? I don't ever speak in definites or guarantees. That's just not what I've ever done or who I am. But, looking at the bigger picture, I would say that all signs are pointing to this could be it. Regular season, that is. I know we still have a chance to potentially get a playoff game there if things fall our way and we take care of business and things have to happen. But in the grand scheme of things, in terms of regular seasons, signs are pointing that way. This could be it.
Okay, Sam Acho, Damian Woody back in the building. Sam, really all signs have been pointing in this direction for some time now. Do you expect this to be Roethlisberger's final season in Pittsburgh?
I do. I think it is going to be his last season in Pittsburgh, which points to his legacy. Like for me, the biggest story here is legacy. I remember my rookie year, I was playing for the Arizona Cardinals, and the first player I ever sacked was Ben Roethlisberger. And if y'all understood how happy I was, I was like, I sacked Ben. I actually slid down. I slid down his leg, and the rest blew the whistle because of protection. But it counted as a sack, and it was like the coolest moment ever because you just sacked a giant, right? So Ben Roethlisberger, in so many ways, is a giant in this league. He changed the game. People call him Big Ben for a reason. The style of play, his toughness, right? He was a perfect quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so if it is his last season, congratulations. I think it will be, but congratulations to Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I think this will be Big Ben's last season, and what a career, for Big Ben if that's the case. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, in my opinion, played the way the Steelers have always played throughout their storied history, their franchise. He's, big, tough, strong arm, just fought his way through a lot of hits, sacks, and you could always count on Ben being out there. There were times throughout weeks, throughout his career where, we in the media would kind of tease, well, is Big Ben going to play this week? Because he always seems to bring up injuries, but he somehow, some way found his way out there to be out there and be out there with his teammates and making plays, whether it be inside the pocket, outside the pocket. I mean, he's just had a heck of a career. And if this is the case, man, I tip my cap to Big Ben because, man, he was truly one of the warriors that we've seen at the quarterback position.
Yeah, 18 seasons, what a career. So if this is, in fact, his final season, again, congratulations to Ben Roethlisberger. But, guys, time now for some quick takes. Lamar Jackson returned to practice yesterday, but his limp was noticeable. You can see that right there on your screen. Should Baltimore start Lamar against the Rams?
With that limp, no, absolutely not. Tyler Huntley has filled in, I would say more than admirably. He's played really well as a backup quarterback. There's no reason. Listen, I love Lamar Jackson, but having 70% of Lamar Jackson is not going to cut it against the Los Angeles Rams. Put Tyler Huntley out there and let him go to work and see if he can get a win against the Rams.
Yeah, he's not looking good. Sam, Frank Reich said rookie Sam Ehlinger will start against the Raiders if Carson Wentz is not cleared in time. Does Indy need Wentz to make the playoffs?
No, they don't. They need Jonathan Taylor. they need him at running back. They need Darius Leonard in that defense. And they need Sam Ehlinger, if he does play, just to play a solid game like he did in the preseason. If he starts, Sam Ehlinger, it'll be his first start. But you heard Frank Reich say that Ehlinger has that it factor, so he's supremely confident. Yes, Reich reached out to Phillip Rivers, hadn't heard back yet. But no, you don't need Carson Wentz to get into the playoffs. Now, to win in the playoffs, you'll definitely need him. But to get in, A-OK. Okay,
and Damian, we had to direct this question at you. Are the Patriots contenders or pretenders after back-to-back losses?
I'm going to go with pretenders right now, for a couple of reasons. Number one, defensively, they got a problem stopping the run. If you're going to be a team that's going to contend, you can't have leaky run defense. That's number one. Number two, Mac Jones, he's had a really fine rookie season, but if you're going to match up with the Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, the elite quarterbacks, you're going to have to play at a really high level. He's struggled as of late this season. I just don't see the Patriots come out of the AFC with those quarterbacks that they have to face.
All right, well, if Damian says it, it's real. All right, gentlemen, coming up, we have a lot more to get to as far as the NFL is concerned. Aaron Rodgers talking about his future again, but by doing so, is he creating some unnecessary drama? The guys weigh in. Plus, Joe Burrow has had a great season, and Patrick Mahomes has taken notice of it. But which of these two talented young quarterbacks would our debaters take for the next 5 years? The answer might surprise you. Sit tight. First Take on the way.
Who you gonna believe? I got the proof, shouting the truth from the top of the roof. I got the receipts. Who you got your money on? Coming to kill, but you gotta put down a meal just to make a bill. Cause I'm never the underdog. Who you gonna believe? I got the proof, shouting the truth from the top of the roof. I got the receipts.
With the Lakers down by 3. LeBron stumbles, has it, throws it away. Memphis has it.
First Take is presented by DraftKings.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold. Thanks so very much for being here with us. We've got Kendrick Perkins and Monica McNutt here on the show. We also will have Sam Acho and Damian Woody joining us. We've got NBA, we've got NFL, we've got everything you are looking for to start this Thursday. Hello, you two. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, well, good. I feel like everyone has a little pep in their step, feeling good, and that's a good thing because guess who is feeling very good today? Mr. Ja Morant. The man could not be stopped last night as the Grizzlies put away the Lakers 104-99 at home. The Lakers seemed like they had it all under control, up 13 late in the third, but then Ja went into sicko mode, scoring 16 of his 41 points starting late in the third quarter through the final buzzer, igniting a 37-19 push by Memphis to finish things off. Now, the loss for LA was their 6th in their last 7 games, large in point to the 41 performance by Ja Morant, who became the first player, by the way, with consecutive 40-point games against a LeBron-led team within a single season. Despite the loss, LeBron recorded his 6th straight 30-point game, becoming the oldest player in NBA history with 8 made three-pointers in a single contest. You know what I love about LeBron? He's got records for being the youngest player for things, the oldest player for things. He's got a lot of range. Okay, so, Kirk, let's start with you here. Do you believe the Lakers' biggest issue is still their health?
You know what? No, because look, everybody is dealing with the same problems right now, whether it's injuries, whether it's guys entering COVID protocols. And at the end of the day, here's the thing. The Lakers have had, throughout this whole entire season, 2 of their big 3 on the floor at all times. So they have zero excuses. We're talking about last night, and even without Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook and LeBron James are still 2 of the top 20 players in the NBA today. So they have zero excuses why they're losing games, Coach, especially the one that they lost last night. I get it. They beat the Houston Rockets. Everybody has beat the Houston Rockets. Hell, me, you, Monica, we can lace up Big Woody, even Acho, who's sitting up there. We probably have a chance of beating the Rockets. But when it comes down to the Lakers, it's the careless turnovers at the end, the unforced turnovers, just not being on time on one accord. And here it is, they haven't really beat one quality team yet.
Perk, I hear you, and that is pretty funny. I'm glad you put some perspective on beating the Rockets because I think people were getting a little confused on that one. However, I do think that their biggest issue is still health. You said it yourself, Perk. This is a team that, when healthy, has 6 future Hall of Famers. And you said if they don't get to the Western Conference Finals, or excuse me, you said if they don't win a championship, it's a failure of an experiment. If this group can get healthy, I personally still don't think they come out of the West, but I do think that they are a far better team than what we've seen as of late. In particular, in last night's matchup, and I'm not talking about the COVID piece, because you're right, everybody is dealing with that. I do think Anthony Davis makes a difference in this ballgame. It may have been closer. I think Steven Adams obviously draws the responsibility of defending AD. But in terms of the health of one of their keys of the big 3 and the guy that everybody said had to be the leader for this squad because he's the youngest and has the most upside left in his career, is Anthony Davis. And so I do give some credence when LeBron says that we haven't had an opportunity to garner any real chemistry and continuity because of the COVID issues and the health issues on this squad. I'm not saying that it's an excuse, but I think if they can get healthy around the All-Star break and go on a little bit of a run, it will be a team that resembles more of what the expectation was as opposed to this team that got us all looking like, what is going on?
No. The Memphis Grizzlies beat the Lakers a couple weeks ago, and they had their big 3. They went down to Memphis and got smacked up. So here's the thing when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, right? I always say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And I'm looking at how they're losing games. Like, okay, Carmelo Anthony has been available throughout the entire season. Carmelo Anthony is one of those guys that I talk about as being a future Hall of Famer that the Lakers are going to have, right? So we already know that Melo is good at doing what? He's a walking bucket. But on the defensive side of things, he's a liability. And guys pick on him in the pick and roll. I don't know if Melo's footwork and lateral movement is going to get better throughout the course of the season. This might be just who he is. So when I'm looking at the Lakers and I'm looking at what they have to do, I'm looking at some games they have to move LeBron James to the 5. Do you think if LeBron James had to match up, if they matched up with the Utah Jazz, for example, LeBron James had to go down there for an entire game series and battle with Rudy Gobert down there in the paint, you think he will be able to sustain that? I'm not doubting him, but it would just put a lot of pressure on LeBron James. So when I'm looking at the Lakers, again, Monica, I'm going to tell you this. The entire season, they have had 2 out of their 3 big 3 has been available for them throughout this whole season. They have zero excuses to be 2 games under 500.
Well, Kendrick, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that if LeBron had to go to the 5, it's a tough day of work versus a team like the Utah Jazz. But I do not believe that this team has shown us everything that they can be. I think this team healthy will be better. Do I think that they are the Western Conference champs? No. And I 100% agree with you. The Memphis Grizzlies, baby, have arrived in fine fashion.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What is the Lakers' expectations this season? What is their expectations?
For me personally, I just expect them to be a playoff team.
No, not for you. I said, what are the Lakers' expectations?
It is obviously a unit that was put together to go get a ring.
Okay. Do you feel like they're going to go get a ring?
No, I don't. I've been felt like that.
So you just answered my question. What are we even talking about? Because for the simple fact, if they're healthy, because if they're healthy, then the expectations for them is for them to go win a championship. Not to say, they're going to make some noise throughout the playoffs or actually reach the conference finals. No, if they're healthy, they're supposed to go win a championship. And you and I both know, Monica, we're both right there in the thick of things. Two people that watch basketball all day long, that the Lakers are not winning no championship with this Lakers team constructed, even if they are healthy.
You know, unfortunately, I think right now we all have to agree with Perk on this one. And it is unfortunate because it's LeBron's birthday, but, alas, there you have it. But Ja Morant, let's talk about him. Hey, happy birthday to the king. Listen, Ja Morant last night, he could not be stopped, 41 points. So, Monica, what is Ja's ceiling?
Oh my gosh, I see endless. Like, first of all, bona fide all-star this year, no doubt about it. I mean, you heard both David Fizdale and LeBron talk post-game. Yeah, they heard them talk about him post-game in terms of the difficulty it is in covering him. And particularly last night, when he's shooting the 3-ball well, he's scoring at all 3 levels. I think what I love about Ja early in his career, and I know we bantered around some ideas about looking at Ja and Russ, but when I think of the two of them, at this point in Ja's career, he already has such an incredible handle on the pace of the game. And you hear guys talk about when you have the ability to slow the game down, that's when you know you're really starting to get into a sweet spot as a professional athlete. I thought he was under control yesterday. I thought he was part of the reason that defense started to pick up its energy and intensity. But overall, this Memphis squad is a top 10 defensive efficiency team. And then he hit very timely baskets. And then there were some moments, Perk, that I was watching and I wanted him to be maybe a little bit broader in the shoulders, but I think that would alter his game big picture. But even when the baskets didn't fall, when he was being toughly guarded in that fourth quarter by Russell Westbrook, that play where he got his own offensive rebound and put back, to me, stands out because he understands the moment, he plays to his strengths, and he is, without question, the leader of this team, and everybody understands their roles. I just love where this Memphis Grizzlies squad is headed.
Well, when I talk about Ja Morant still, and forget that before he was drafted, I said that the Pelicans should have drafted him number 1 over Zion. Forget that I tried to warn people that this guy's a generational talent. Forget the fact that I told people he's a combination of Russell Westbrook for his athleticism, Kyrie Irving for his craftiness and his handle, Rajon Rondo for his passing ability all in one. I'm going to take it a step further. People keep saying a rising superstar. I think he's already hit that level. And in my opinion, I'm looking at Ja Morant, and he's going to be, in my opinion, the next Giannis of the NBA. And when I say that, because I'm not just talking about individual accolades, but when I look at this young leader, this young killer, to me, if I had to bet all the money in the world, he would be the next superstar to lead a franchise, a small market franchise, to winning the championship. And the only other player to do that over the last 10 years or so forth was, LeBron James, in Cleveland, but Giannis, and then it's going to be Ja Morant. That's how special of a talent he is. And he gave us a sample size last year when they were in the play-in and they had to get into the playoffs. And you remember, Monica, you and I were the only people that picked them to actually beat, I think it was the Golden State Warriors. So when you look at what he's doing, he has upped his average in points. He's doing it all. And here's the thing I love about Ja. He's going to flex on you. He's going to dance on you. He's going to go post on Instagram. He's going to talk his noise, but then he's going to back it up. He gives them swagger, and he is culture. That's how I feel about Ja Morant and his ceiling.
Modern day
Amen
player.
over here.
Yeah, we love that. But, again, let's give a little love to the King. He scored 37 points the day before his 37th birthday. Not only that, but he is the only player to score more points prior to turning every single age between 19 and 37 than any other player in NBA history. So much love to LeBron James. And you two, will see you back in just a bit. But for right now, we're going to transition over to the NFL because it looks like 42 from behind the arc in a loss to the Clippers last night.
Exactly what you said, Charlie. It's ugly. Look, the Celtics are like a broken refrigerator. They can't keep a damn thing cold, okay? And they kept firing up three-point shots. And then the sad part about it, Ime Udoka came and said, oh, it's great looks. No, it's great looks to people because they're giving you these shots because you don't have the personnel to keep firing up three-point shots. The Celtics are a disaster right now. It's disturbing to watch them even play basketball.
Ooh. A disaster. Okay, let's move on from that. Enough said there, because it is official. Kyrie, he is back. He practiced for the first time yesterday since the preseason after the Nets decided to bring him back on a part-time basis despite their earlier decision to have him stay away from the team because, of course, he chose not to get vaccinated. That's a decision Kyrie said he knew would come with some serious ramifications.
Incredibly grateful just to be back in the building. Welcome back with open arms to my teammates, the whole entire organization. Not gonna lie, it's been relatively tough to watch from the sideline, but if I get the opportunity to get on the court and play with some of my teammates, even if it's just on the road for away games, I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I understood their choice to say if you're not gonna be vaccinated, fully vaccinated, then you can't be a full participant. I knew the consequences. I wasn't prepared for them by no stretch of imagination. Coming into the season, I had my thought process on be a full-time teammate and just go out and have fun and provide a great brand of basketball out there. But unfortunately, it didn't happen like that. Things happen for a reason, and now we're here, and I'm just grateful for this.
All right, the Nets, winners of 6 of their last 7, will host the 76ers tonight as they open a 3-game homestand. And then they hit the road for a stop in Indiana next Wednesday before returning home for a pair of games against the Bucks and the Spurs. Okay, so big perk, Monica McNutt back here with us. And remember, you two, Kyrie can only play on the road because of New York City's protocols. But you think, Perk, that bringing Kyrie is a bad look for the Nets, the fact they're bringing him back?
No. Look, here's the thing. Kyrie Irving came into the season. He didn't say he did not want to play the game of basketball. He just said that he wasn't going to he didn't feel like he didn't want to get vaccinated. Okay, it's a lot of people around the world that didn't want to get vaccinated. Was I on here saying that I thought Kyrie should got vaccinated? Yes, but it's still his decision. So the Nets took upon them to say, you know what, if we can't have you full time, if you're not going to get vaccinated, then you're not going to play. And then all of a sudden they came to realization and said, you know what, look, we're dealing with this throughout the country. We're dealing with this throughout the world. So at the end of the day, look, if we could get Kyrie again, Monica, because I can't see your face, but I already I can feel your body language. Okay, they're saying if we can have Kyrie Irving part-time, that's good enough. Because here's the thing. Let me tell you the thing about the vaccination part of it. All right, I get it. And I was in New York over the Christmas holidays, and I went to a few restaurants, and they said, you know what, in order to get in, we got to see your vaccination card. I didn't happen to have it on me visually, but I had a picture of it in my phone, and I showed it to the people. And I said, you know what? How do you even know this is my vaccination card? You don't even know my name. You're not asking for my ID with it. So at the end of the day, look, I'm with the Nets. This is a superstar talent. I said this yesterday. If you could get him part-time, that helps your chances on winning the title. That helps your chances on bringing James Harden back next year. Because remember, it was supposed to go in order. Kevin Durant was supposed to sign first this offseason. Next was Kyrie Irving. Next was James Harden. So this is a good strategy by the Brooklyn Nets to say, you know what? We cannot afford to lose James Harden and Kyrie Irving this offseason.
Burke, I hear you. And I think you got to parse out this question a bit. Is it a bad look for the Nets when it comes to what it does for them as a contender? No. To have Kyrie obviously is better than not to have Kyrie. And in this way, he is following the rules. But let me just share, similar to you, over the Christmas holiday, enjoying time with friends and family, for me, popped a positive. So I'm currently in my house instead of hanging out with Charlie and Sam in studio because I'm quarantining. And personally, I am just so fed up with our country at large, and that includes the CDC with their crazy news yesterday, in terms of us looking for all of these loopholes. And we're only going to turn this pandemic into a much longer affair. Now, that is not the Brooklyn Nets problem. And you are absolutely right. Kyrie has every right not to be vaccinated, and he is now going to proceed as a player that is unvaccinated. And so the basketball part, it is hard to disagree. Yes, he makes that team better indeed. Personally, I just want us to hold the line so we can move through this. And that is honestly personal frustration. But the basketball piece, I mean, what are you going to say? And now, moving forward, as long as everyone involved is following the proper protocols, you do what you got to do. I would have loved, personally, for the line to be held on this, though.
Here's another thing, though, Monica. Kyrie is not the only player in the NBA that's not vaccinated.
He's not. I
You know
got
what
you.
I mean? But we shined a microscope on him, including myself, with a guy like Bradley Beal. I said this yesterday. He wasn't vaccinated, but he got an opportunity to play. If Kyrie Irving was on another team, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is that what the Brooklyn Nets did, I thought it was smart on their part. And then when you hear the rest of Kyrie Irving interview that they cut off before we could hear it, he also said that everybody welcomed him back with open arms, which goes to show me about my point of what I said yesterday, is that they had to come together and have a meeting about this. And you're dealing with a team of veterans that ultimately want to win the championship, from Kevin Durant to James Harden to Blake Griffin to LaMarcus Aldridge to Patty Mills. So they know in order for them to reach their ultimate goal, they're going to need Kyrie Irving in some form or fashion.
Well, I hope that they are now okay with being the road team in all the series so that they can get the most out of Kyrie so that he can play on the road and all the decisive games are on the road. I mean, listen, we continue to navigate this thing as a country. Again, kudos of respect in terms of, one, Kyrie being honest, because we've obviously seen other superstars that tried to fudge the system. And then they found a loophole. Carry on, as you say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point about the road games. You definitely want those series to be on the road. But it does make sense. I mean, everything we have to reevaluate on a day-to-day basis. I mean, even the Nets, you can't really fault them for wavering and going back on them saying they didn't want to bring him back, because even the CDC, like we said this week, Monica, they have already completely revised the rules as far as isolation goes. So it is a fluid situation, people. Okay, Perk, Monica, thank you so very much for your time. We are letting you go for the rest of this show, but we'll see you soon.
Monica, get well, okay? See you later, Charlie.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, still to come. Bill Belichick has his team in line to make the playoffs, but after a few recent bumps in the road, what do you think, they are contenders or are they just flat-out pretenders? Plus, we are just one day, a lot more coming your way. Guess what? It is LeBron's 37th birthday, but what do you give a guy who seems to have it all? Woody, with what gift the King should want the most? And Patrick Mahomes has absolutely dominated in his short NFL career, but one of the guys actually says, yes, that he would take Joe Burrow over Mahomes for the next 5 years. You do not want to miss any of these debates, but first, it all comes down to this. The college football playoff semifinals Friday on ESPN and on Alabama, taking on number 4 Cincinnati in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. And then it is number 2 Michigan and number 3 Georgia in the Capital One Orange Bowl. The winners playing for the national championship Monday, January 10th, right here on ESPN. And now we're bringing in ESPN college football analyst and 16-year NFL veteran Joey Galloway, getting into all the action. You should have heard these two guys going at it during the break.
I didn't know it was 16 years, Joey.
16
years. A bunch of different quarterbacks.
The man's a pro.
Hey, guys, I'm out here on the ledge, and I'm scared of heights. I don't feel comfortable. Let's dive into this.
Well, let's get right into it. Okay, Joey, big question. Which team has the edge, UGA or Michigan?
I would go with Georgia, although I think this one's going to be a really tight game. I think the line is 7.5. I don't think it'll be that big of a spread either way, whoever wins this game. But I'll go with Georgia. They were the best team all season long up until the end, up until the SEC championship game. And I think that their defense is going to be a lot better. I think losing that game makes Georgia a much more dangerous football team than if they had won that game and gone undefeated in the regular season. I think losing the game makes you go back to the drawing board. It erases what you thought you were and makes you refocus and come back as a stronger football team.
No, that definitely makes sense with thinking that Georgia can win it. I actually think that Michigan has the better chance to win. And the reason I think that is that Michigan has no pressure. Like, absolutely no pressure. They were unranked coming into the season. Nobody thought that Harbaugh and this Michigan team could win anything. And all of a sudden, they made it to the dance. And so you see a Georgia team that if they win this game, they got to go back and potentially play Alabama again. There's a lot of pressure riding on this game. I feel like with J.J. McCarthy, backup quarterback, can come in and make some splash plays. I think Michigan could come in and make plays that you usually wouldn't see. Remember the Maryland game? Michigan ran a throwback in the third quarter. They were up by 2 or 3 touchdowns, right? Michigan just plays free. And for me, I think that's probably going to be the difference in this game. We know strength on strength, right? Great running attack, great run defense. But for me, it's that freedom that Michigan has.
Yeah, I think Jim Harbaugh coming into this season has been on a hot seat for the last 5 or 6 years. And so has a great regular season, beats Ohio State finally, and now they're in the playoff. I bet if you ask him about pressure and who wants to win this game more, I would imagine that they're right there with Georgia. I don't know that they're in this situation in the playoff. I wouldn't say that there is more pressure either way, or either team's going to play free, because if you look at both teams, neither one has been able to get over the hump. Georgia's not been able to get over the Alabama hump, and so they're both still in the same position. They haven't been able to pull it off in this playoff, haven't been able to win a national championship in this playoff, so I think the pressure is about the same.
But what makes you think that it'll be Georgia pulling it out over Michigan, even though both programs still kind of trying to get over the hump?
Now, I said that. I don't feel good about that. I really, in this game, I think because these two teams are two teams that are very similar. Very physical defense, very aggressive, great up front. They both want to run the ball on the offensive side. You know, Cade McNamara and Stetson Bennett, quarterbacks that rely on their offenses to be able to run the football first and then go play action pass. So in this game, like I said, I think the spread is 7.5 in favor of Georgia. I don't think it'll be that wide. I think this game will come down to a field goal either way because these teams are so similar.
If Georgia's able to pull it off, this is I think what a lot of people are interested in. If Georgia's able to pull it off and Alabama beats Cincinnati, and now you got Georgia-Alabama rematch, knowing the history that Georgia has, losing the last 3 times they played Alabama, what do you think happens in that game?
It's hard to pick against Alabama. When I first got into doing college football, when I got done with my NFL career, I got into college football. I came in thinking all things were equal across the board. I picked against Alabama a couple times. That didn't work out for me. I realized that in these moments, in the moments when they have to win, when they need to step up, and we seen an SEC championship game, if you looked at the Auburn-Alabama game, there was no one on the planet that thought that Alabama could do what they did to Georgia.
Oh, okay, look, we know that you can't bet against Alabama, kind of like earlier, Sam, how we talked about you can't bet against Tom Brady. Same type of thing. But look, Joey, it can happen. So how can Cincinnati, by any stretch of the imagination, pull off the upset against Bama?
Don't get me wrong, it absolutely can happen. I think Cincinnati is a very talented football team. And one thing Luke Fickell has done a really nice job of with this team is just focusing on their job. Don't get caught up in all the outside noise. Don't get caught up in the idea that we got to go out and win impressively to make the committee or the fans think that we're a better football team. They've been focused on their job, and they've done a very good job of that, winning the games they've needed to win. I think the key for Cincinnati is, number one, run the ball, but then Desmond Ridder has to get off to a great start. In their biggest games of the year, he hasn't thrown an interception. That's Notre Dame, SMU, the American Championship game against Houston. He hasn't thrown an interception in those 3 games, the biggest games of their season. He has to continue that. Things have to go their way. They can't make mistakes in this game. And the key for Cincinnati, you have to get after Bryce Young. They have great corners on the back end, but that won't matter if you can't pressure Bryce Young. You have to get in their backfield, much like Auburn did, much like Texas A&M did. So we've seen it done. Cincinnati's going to have to go out and do the same thing we've seen teams do previously to Alabama.
And Joey, we've been in the studio a bunch of times watching Alabama play, watching these games. So we saw when Bryce Young got sacked 7 times in the Iron Bowl. We saw that offensive line be really porous. And also, but to your point, yes, there are some dogs on the back end of Cincinnati's defense, Kobe Bryant being one of them, Sauce Gardner. There are also some dogs up front, guys like Myjai Sanders and Darian Beavers. I know you said it could be done. I also know you said you don't bet against Nick Saban. Do you think it will be? Do you think it will be done?
The big question.
I wouldn't pick Cincinnati. I wouldn't pick Cincinnati to win this game, but I do think it's going to be a much better football game than a lot of people think. I think it's a 13.5-point spread. That's not a huge spread. So I think Vegas is actually giving Cincinnati a lot of respect with that spread. You're talking 7 points here and there late in the game, how things can change. So I believe that this Cincinnati team is going to come and hit this field thinking that they're going to win this game, thinking that they're going to beat Alabama. Now, if this has been anybody else outside of Nick Saban in Alabama, I would feel a lot more comfortable in Cincinnati's chances to win. I won't be surprised if they win. I just wouldn't pick them.
Okay, let's circle back to that Georgia-Michigan game because there's a lot of talk surrounding Stetson Bennett. Joey, what do you think about Georgia making the decision to start Stetson, being the fact that he struggled against Alabama previously?
I don't even think that's a decision. We keep having this conversation about JT Daniels and Stetson Bennett. I don't know why that's a conversation. Stetson Bennett has played very well this season. Now, because we've talked so much about their defense, because we talked so much about their run game, we've almost developed this narrative as if Stetson Bennett hasn't played good football. He's thrown 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, and 2 of those interceptions were in the Alabama game. The first time we've seen this season when Georgia has been put in a position where they are playing from behind and they have to find a way to make plays to come back and win a football game. I think Stetson Bennett is a really good quarterback, and I also lean on the coaching staff. I think Todd Monken, I think Kirby Smart, who are there every day with these guys through spring, through summer, through every meeting, every practice, every game. I think that they're going to pick the guy that gives them the best chance to win the game. And I don't even know why it's a conversation, Acho, and you better not say it is a conversation. You better agree with that, Acho.
Well, I was going to ask you, I know you just said you don't know why, but I really do want to know why people make this a conversation. The reason I say that, if you watch Georgia play, you saw Stetson Bennett look outstanding. Like, not just good, not just average, not just like game managing. He looked outstanding. Obviously, he didn't have to do too much because of dominant offensive line and running backs. So he looked great. The SEC championship was the one game where he struggled, but also Georgia as a whole struggled. Georgia's defense, Georgia's secondary struggled. And so for me, I don't think it is or should be a conversation, but for whatever reason, we have this narrative and this storyline. Joey, why do you think that these narratives and storylines come? Why do you think these exist?
It's fun.
You know, years ago when I was with Coach Parcells, he used to always say the backup quarterback is the best position in football. Everybody always assumes that the backup guy is better, and he's not. He's sitting on the bench. He can soak that in and let people believe he's better, and the narrative just grows. And that's what's happened with Stetson Bennett. It was almost like we were looking for a weakness in this Georgia team. The defense was terrific. The run game, terrific. What can we find? What can we poke a hole in? I think Stetson Bennett has played terrific this season, and I think he's their best quarterback, and clearly the coaching staff thinks so. So we're going to let this see what happens here. If they get past Michigan, he's going to have to play better against Alabama for sure for them to win that game.
Okay, look, I just hope he can help lead Georgia to a victory because, gentlemen, I have to host First Take, Her Take with Elle Duncan, and I cannot bear to hear any more pain in her voice if the dogs can't get this one done. So that's all I have to say about that. Joey, thank you so much. We're going to let you get off that ledge right now.
I appreciate that. Thanks, guys.
All right, still to come here on First Take, happy birthday to the king. Damian Woody going to tell you what gift he thinks LeBron needs most at the young age of 37. Plus, Kyler and the Cards are headed to Big D, but who will get the upper hand when it is all said and done? We talk Micah Parsons.